Hello and welcome everybody to the Truth Lab. I'm your host, Alex Landry. This is episode number 22. Today's special guest, her name is Cynthia Tina, and Cynthia helps people discover intentional community living for better housing, health, and happiness. She has traveled to over 200 intentional communities around the world. She resides in a Vermont eco-village in her own self-built natural home. Her speaking, businesses, and consultancy have contributed to the growth of numerous community-led housing projects. She's the founder of CommunityFinders, which offers programs to help people find community. She's also the founder of Ecovillage Tours, offering guided trips to communities worldwide. So let's get right into it, Cynthia. How are you doing right now? And you're in your home?
I am in my home. Yeah, Alex, thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing great today. It's a nice summer day here in Vermont in the community where I live. And yeah, life is good.
Awesome. So how long have you lived there?
I've lived in this community since joining in 2019. And my community is one where when you join, you buy your piece of land and then you build your house. So I've also been building my house. So I haven't quite been living here full time since maybe the last several years. But it took a while just to, do the clearing of the land and the construction and everything. I've built a home that is a combination of natural construction and high performance mainstream construction. So I'm doing a lot of natural plasters on the interior walls. That's what you can see behind me. And yeah, that's still very much in progress. I'm probably going to do some more plastering after this interview. Yeah. Yeah, we're 8 households on 15 acres of land in central Vermont. So everyone who lives here has built their own home. It's been amazing to have that kind of support and connection with neighbors who have a lot of skills and tools and emotional support going through such a big project. And we have a section of our land that is woods and a big meadow. We have an orchard, a huge garden, a pond, chickens, two greenhouses. So we're very much focused on, yeah, living on the land and creating a great environment also for the many families with kids who live here.
Wow. So since 2019
Yeah.
and 15 acres total?
Yeah, 15 acres total. So my little home site is much smaller, of course, but as a member of the community, and that's one of the cool things about living in an intentional community, I have access to so much more than just my little house.
Wow. Well, if you don't mind me asking, like, so from like a real estate perspective, is it like one 15-acre parcel or was it subdivided into lots or?
Yeah. Great question. So we have two parcels, if you will. We have one that is the bigger chunk of land. It's almost all of the 15 acres. That is our community land, and we own that collectively. We each have an equal share. And then we have a portion of the land that's where the homes are clustered, more of the neighborhood, and that is subdivided and structured as a homeowners association or an HOA. And I know a lot of people are like, "Ooh, an HOA," but of course we're nothing like the normal HOA. We do all of our decision making, participatory. We do all the maintenance ourselves. We are very much, living here and co-creating the community ourselves.
That's amazing. So what's like a major city near you or kind of how you
Yeah. Yeah,
whole.
we're fairly rural. I mean, much of the state of Vermont is pretty rural. I live about a 30-minute drive outside of Montpelier, which is the capital of Vermont. So that's kind of like usually, yeah, if I want to go do big shopping, that's where I'll go. I also have a somewhat bigger town. I was just there yesterday doing errands that has a food co-op, about a 15-minute drive. But then we're really lucky because right in our village where we live, within walking distance, is a tiny, small, country village with a store and a library and a school, just that quintessential New England village. So that's within walking distance, which is very nice.
Cool. So how many individuals are part of the eco village where you live?
Yeah.
You mentioned
Um,
some families with kids.
Yeah, there's 8 households, so that equates to probably 12 adults and a big gaggle of kids. I don't know, 10 kids or so. We have a lot of kids here, and some of them live here part-time. But the interesting thing is, and a lot of people may not realize this because I think there's a lot of stereotypes. Oh, intentional communities, off in the woods, this kind of bubble. But our community is super well connected with all of our neighbors. So even though we in the community proper are just 12 adults, there's probably 30 or 40 people who regularly come to our parties or we hang out with or we can walk to through the woods. So it feels a lot bigger than just the 12.
Cool. Well, here, let's backtrack a little bit. We'll do a little time traveling. So, when did this start for you? Like, when did you first have the idea to visit intentional communities or eco villages? Was there like a pivotal moment in your life? Where are you from originally?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, happy to share my background. So I did not grow up in an intentional community. I grew up with a pretty mainstream family in the suburbs outside of Boston. And yeah, grew up fairly conventional life. I remember a lot of in my suburban area, kind of highways and shopping malls. But at an early age, I was very interested in different ways of living. I spent a lot of time in nature. I started a garden after, reading a book about gardening. I was like, that's amazing. I want to try doing that. And read a book about traveling to different places. That's amazing. I want to try that. And I ended up visiting what turned out to be the first intentional community I visited at the age of 15. It was a place called Turtle Island in North Carolina. And there I just really got exposed to more alternative ways of life, growing food, living closely to the land. And so it wasn't like one big aha. I've never, had a corporate job and then did a 180 and shifted into intentional community. It was more a slow journey at a young age of feeling quite disconnected from the way that my family was living, or even like my close friends in school. They thought I was sort of crazy for wanting to spend time in the woods and in nature, and didn't understand all the vegetables I was bringing to lunch. And I have a younger sister, and she's very much followed the path of my parents of living in the city and has a corporate job and is just climbing that ladder. And I knew that wasn't for me, but for a long time, I didn't quite know that there were so many intentional communities out there and places where people are choosing to live differently and are creating a more connected, more regenerative world. So that has been really impactful in my life. And I'm just all about letting more people know that they don't have to feel so alone. There is other options for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've explored 200 or more. I mean,
Yeah.
you visited every one. I mean, what?
Oh my God, no way. Oh, there's so many. There's like thousands of intentional communities out there. I've just been really fortunate through, my love of travel and going to so many events and networking and building friendships and relationships and communities, that's just like how I travel now. Oh, I'm going to this area. Is there a community there I can visit? Do I know somebody? And that's really what prompted me to start my company, Ecovillage Tours, and help people go on these trips and visit communities because there are a ton. We're hosting trips in Costa Rica, in Hawaii, throughout the United States, Europe, India. We're going to Bali this winter. Really, it's a global movement, and I'm really passionate about helping people find these communities and go visit them.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me wonder, like, what is the optimal size? Obviously best practices, kind of like the idea that we can learn from other people's mistakes, like why maybe some intentional communities last longer than others.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, to a certain degree, there are some principles or practices that tend to work well for communities, but I'm really hesitant to say, oh, this is the blueprint and this is how it must look, because it's so dependent on the people and the culture and the place. And the cool thing is that there is so much room for experimentation when we're talking about creating new, like mini micro societies, if you will. And there's certainly ways that you can have a more healthy community structure or one that is more dysfunctional. So a healthy community for me and what I've seen in my experience is one where there is a lot of participation. So group participatory decision making, not just, one person or majority votes, but really a lot of dialogue using structures around proposal making, sitting at the table. So, decision making is a big piece, having some structures in place for conflict resolution. And sometimes those two things go hand in hand. Decision making, conflict resolution. You're probably going to have conflict if you're getting together and trying to create a new world with a bunch of strangers. It's sort of inevitable. And then the other piece I'll mention is having a really good membership onboarding process. So having a good way as a community to vet new people coming in, ensure it's a good fit. And that really comes down to what are the values of the community? What are the vision, the mission? What is it that's going to determine whether somebody is a good fit for this particular community or not? So this is a big topic. Like, you asked a big question there, but those are some things I would start with.
Yeah, so let's kind of zoom back now. So you were just in Europe, right? Weren't you in Portugal, or where were you?
Our company was, yeah, we did an ecovillage tour in Portugal in June. I wasn't there myself. I recently led a trip where I live here in Vermont, in the state of Vermont and in the Northeast. That was an 8-day trip that we led, visiting 8 different intentional communities.
Cool. So I guess since you talked about mission, vision, values, what are the mission, vision, values for where you live right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a website for people who are interested, headwatersvermont.org. And I'll put the caveat up front that we are not open to new members currently. We are full. And a great way to come visit us is on the next Vermont Ecovillage tour that I'll be hosting next year in July. I'm also going to be hosting a retreat coming up in September, and I'm thinking during the retreat we'll make a side visit to my community. So that's another way to visit. But as I mentioned, we are pretty focused on the land here that we're kind of stewarding. So our intention is to be a permaculture inspired community where we all contribute to maintaining the garden and the land. And our other core value is to create a good neighborhood for the kids who live here to grow up in. So we have a lot of young kids, and they are just living in paradise. They run around and play in the pond, and run through the woods, and play games with each other, and really just fostering that multi-generational community village vibe. That's a big part of our mission.
Awesome. Yeah, I pulled up the Headwaters Vermont. I was trying to screen share, but I can always share the link in there. But um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hadn't really checked it out. Like I said, I tried before, to prepare myself for kind of a little bit of your background and stuff, so I could ask you more informed questions and everything. Um, but yeah, it looks really cool. I see the site plan, the charter and bylaws, covenant and restrictions. If you don't mind me asking, like how much is the HOA? Because I've looked into some agrihoods, and since I live in Florida, there's a few agrihoods around here, and one that comes to mind is called Arden. It's kind of near Palm Beach. And when
Okay.
I last checked, that's like 2,000 acres. And I think it's a quarter developed. But long story short, their HOA, I think, was around 250, but they actually had like a 5 acre farm in the middle. And so
Yeah.
part of that HOA covers the actual salary for the farmer and his wife, who's like his assistant,
Same.
and also being able to do like a type of CSA, community
Mm,
agriculture. So I kind of thought that's interesting because sometimes people, are paying an HOA and there's certain amenities, but when it comes to health and if we have something like what happened with the pandemic, it's really valuable to have local food production. But then more importantly, when there's children, sometimes they just want to be immersed in where the food is being grown. And it's not like each person that's part of this wants to be a farmer, waking up early and
mhm.
putting all the hard work in. But yeah, I was just curious with the cost of the HOA and
Yeah. Our monthly membership, I think it's like $200 a month. And that covers, just like you said, all of the garden expenses, equipment, seeds, all of the road maintenance, also snow plowing in the winter because we get a lot of snow in our winters up here. So yeah, it covers a fair bit, and is still pretty reasonably priced, especially compared to some other communities where it can be a lot more expensive to live.
and is it traditional where there's like a president of the HOA that gets voted in or
Oh, I mean, we have to like fill in a form with some names, but we don't actually pay attention to any of that stuff. We just do it to appease the legal system as such. And a lot of intentional communities in Vermont, but I think in other states, use the homeowners association model because it's a easily understood, easy to understand sort of system, and we abide by it, but then we do whatever we want with our own governance, on our own. Yeah, there's the website for the community where I live.
cool. Yeah, sorry, I have two screens up, so sometimes I don't know if it's like
Yeah, yeah, we see
yeah.
it.
Well, I'll put the link in the description so people can see.
Sure.
But that's
Yeah.
awesome. It looks like it began in 2011, but then you joined it in 2019.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm one of the newer-ish residents.
Yeah, and while we're here, I'll show people. I was checking out some of your testimonies. Seems like you've helped over 250 community seekers and counting.
Yeah, it's a lot more now. I got to update that.
Love the name though, CommunityFinders. It's a great name. And then right before we started, I kind of was going through this, and I will say, like for some of these, I was kind of like, it'd be cool if there was like a fill in the blank, because some of them I just like I try to answer quickly, but then some of them I'm like, oh, if I have to choose, then I'll just go with the one I resonate with. But then if there was like a fill in the blank, but I think this is really amazing that you're providing this. So yeah, I'll make sure to put.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the quiz that I have on the communityfinders.com website. And it's intended to be, yeah, just like a quick 2-minute quiz, and then you get a sense of which type of community may be a good fit for you.
Yeah. So what type of outreach we touched on briefly, how I think we might have both been at the 2017 Northern California Permaculture Convergence, which I
Mhm.
thought was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
so sometimes places like that is a good place to network with people that are interested in this, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. There are all kinds of intentional community events and websites and online groups. If you go to the CommunityFinders.com website, I have some blog articles there with different events that are happening related to intentional community living. Um, yeah, if people are looking to plug in, I have a weekly membership program where we meet every Thursday and get support on your intentional community journey, network with other people who are also in this world, and then also hear from guest communities who come on to present, communities that have openings right now. So there's a lot. Like, I mean, people just need to get online and just Google intentional communities, and you'll be amazed at there might be something in your area, there might be something that's established or just getting started, or something that you can go and visit.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have a similar vision, but had visions where, if you know what woofing is, have you?
Yeah, I've done woofing. Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
so some people, that's a way for them to get their toes wet a little bit, because think about it. Most people are working a 9 to 5, and to get the time off to go experience or visit an eco village. But the fact that some of these intentional communities have a farm and you can woof, where you're having accommodations, you're trading your time and labor on a farm. And I've learned that a lot of people, I don't know if you personally like growing food or farming, but sometimes it's not for everybody. But I think it's good when people have an opportunity to at least maybe woof to see, because sometimes people have an idea like, oh, I'm going to start a farm, but they have no farm experience. So then woofing kind of provides that opportunity. But then the next step would be like, if communities, doesn't seem like yours necessarily does, where they kind of let volunteers come and stay and maybe help with projects for a few weeks to a month, so then people can get an experience of the decision making and just kind of
Hmm. Hmm.
lifestyle entails, you know what I mean? Because it's completely alternative to what they've experienced most of their life.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So WWOOFing, as an acronym, stands for Worldwide Workers on Organic Farms. And yeah, like you said, it's mostly geared towards farms. Some intentional communities do have those kind of opportunities, whether it's through woofing or just being an intern or work exchange participant. I actually think there's one there in Florida. I've been hearing more and more about heirloom gardens, and they do a lot of those kind of hands-on learning about farming. They work a lot with organic vegetables and plants. So my community, at the moment, we're not set up to host volunteers, but we have in the past. And some communities, that's just more of a focus than others. And that's why through eco-village tours, we've really been able to partner with communities that are able to receive a group or people to come and visit and experience their community. It just we're a community with a lot of families with young kids, and it's just a little bit outside our capacity right now, but definitely something we could do more of in the future.
Yeah, like when I was living in Kauai, I know like a community kind of held a workshop to build, let's say, like a cob pizza oven. So it was
Mhm.
kind of a way to generate, some revenue where people would pay to come visit and stay and learn how to build this cob oven. But then it's kind of like the value for the community was now they have a cob pizza oven.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's awesome. There's
Workshops like
so,
that, especially
yeah,
natural building.
workshops. Yeah, workshops, anything in the hospitality, retreats. Those are all great ways for a community to get people to come and learn about what they're doing and also bring in some revenue for the community.
Yeah. Well, I guess how long do you see yourself here in Vermont? I mean, I was actually born in Canada, so it's like for me, I don't know. I mean, the cold is fun with like some sports, skiing, but living in Florida and Hawaii, I mean, I kind of like to be in tropical, subtropical places. I have a passion for growing tropical, subtropical fruit trees. When I interviewed Curtis last week, I was out in my garden and I'm looking at it right now. So like I may have this vision behind me, but at least in front of me, I'm looking at, uh, just a lot of tropical fruit trees and stuff like that. So I just don't know if I could live someplace like Vermont. So I'm just curious with you, like when you think about who knows, 5, 10 years from now, and all the different eco villages you've visited, if there's been.
Ah, yeah, I am very happily rooted where I live now, and I foresee myself, who knows, living here the rest of my life. I'm not even done building the house that I've started to build, so I got to get that finished first. And then at least a solid 10 years. But like I say, I mean, I feel very blessed to live where I do. And I also have a big garden and I grow most of my own food that I eat throughout the year. So, especially right now, it's a lot of harvesting and preserving for winter. But yeah, I love it here. I'm a skier too, so the winter doesn't bother me. I like it.
How would it even work? So, like, let's say you wanted to move, like, you just put your house on the market, or like how?
No, no. So most intentional communities, and this is a really big distinction, you don't necessarily find them on the real estate market. It's a lot about building relationships. So if I wanted to move, we have a certain procedure for that, and each community is different. But in my case, obviously, I'd communicate that with the community. It'd probably be a pretty sad and traumatic thing. I don't even like imagining it, but let's just say. And then I would go about, advertising that. We have a long waiting list of people who are interested in potentially joining. And we actually had a home that was available a few years back, and we were very fortunate that we had a selection of families that we could choose from, and we, found the ones that seemed like a good fit, and we made them an offer, and we were able to help them get into the home, and so it's much more about we have a membership process, coming to meet everyone, helping out on a work day. Like it's not as transactional, it's more about building the relationships. But yeah, ultimately, I'd be able to sell the home and go on to the next thing.
Wow. So right now, what's some of because there's obviously things you're working on your home, but how about with the
Mhm.
community? Like, is there a current
Mm.
priority right now? Like, what's?
Ah, yeah, great question. Yes. Oh my gosh. Right now it's super busy. This is like the height of summer and growing season for us. We are nearly completing a barn that will house our chickens and chicken coop and some of our other equipment. Like we have a zero-turn lawnmower, a tractor, a lot of hay bales, a lot of other stuff that we're really excited to get into this barn before winter. So it's been a big project at the moment.
Hey, that's awesome. And like I can't help it when I help clients buy homes, especially if there's an HOA. I'm always usually talking to the president, like going through the budget, and seeing what's going on and everything. Because at the end of the day, like, there's all these expenses, a barn and a tractor,
Mhm, mhm.
things like that. So it's amazing though, because at least some alternative models are like co-ops. So I know of people, especially in Hawaii, where they may not be living in intentional community, but if they're farmers, they're part of a co-op, so they can buy in bulk, certain
Yeah,
products or even things like sharing equipment and all of that. It just makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Well, there are housing cooperatives. That's another legal structure that intentional communities sometimes use. Yeah, housing cooperatives, community land trusts, which is more of a nonprofit structure, also has some benefits. A new kind of newly becoming popular legal structure is a PMA, a private membership association. That also has, again, certain benefits in terms of tax exemption and helping people being community outside of the legal structure as such. So yeah, so many different models and ways that it can look.
Yeah, are you willing to share, like, since you've been there in 2019, has there been any major conflict or anything
Oh,
that
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Communities have conflict all the time. It's one of the things, we always say, what you love about the community, the people. What you hate about community, the people. So it's yeah, it can be extremely challenging. We have had different conflicts, big and small, over the years. 2019 was tricky because obviously with COVID and so many tensions and fears and so many different changes over the course of those years. And that was a really stressful time, I would say, for us. We did have actually our founder ended up leaving the community. I
that's
think it
when
was
that's when you joined, right? Like,
yeah, but she left some years later, I think
okay.
2022
It
or
didn't scare you off, which is good, because
yeah. I mean, I could sense even when I was first visiting, there were some tensions building. It is a little tricky when you have a community that is started by a strong founder who has like a lot of energy, a lot of charisma, but maybe also can be in tensions at time with other folks. Um, so yeah, she decided that it wasn't the right fit for any longer and has gone on her way and I think is happier where she is now. And we're grateful that she helped get the whole thing started. And yeah, I think we're in a good place now with the people we have in the mix.
awesome. So it seems like there's almost the same amount of adults as children. Do the kids travel to school? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a mix. Some of the kids go to the local school, so some of them can just like walk down the hill and be at school.
Oh,
Um,
that
uh,
that's
yeah, it's really close. Yeah, it's a really small school. I
what's
think
kind of smart to think about, because it's important, right? Like a school being near
yeah,
community
yeah.
to work out.
Exactly. Yeah. Then there's a Waldorf school. That one's a bit of a drive. Some of the kids go there, and then some of them are homeschooled. And there's a pretty strong homeschooling network in this region. So they're homeschooled, but they also do a lot with the other kids and families.
Nice. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Wow. So you kind of went, if I remember, you said Turtle Island was the first intentional community. So
Mhm. Yeah.
why were you there? Like, what brought you there?
Yeah, there's a wonderful book called The Last American Man. It's one of Elizabeth Gilbert's books, and it chronicles the life of Eustace Conway, who uh, learned a lot from Native American traditions. He was a very accomplished equestrian, and he founded this center, which I call an intentional community because it was certainly that for me at the time that I visited. I spent a summer there, as I mentioned, when I was pretty young. And yeah, and I was just so excited to go to the place where this person I had read a book about created. And I remember like looking at the website and being like, oh my gosh, this is all the things I'm into. I'm really into nature. I'm really into learning survival skills and very cool to learn Appalachian and traditional ways of life, food production, clothing making, building construction. So yeah, that was just like stuff I was into and decided to go there.
Okay, cool. So was that off grid? What percent of these communities are somewhat off grid, whether it's like solar or their water or some
Yeah. It's a huge spectrum. I think, on one end of the spectrum, you can have communities that are maybe like the eco village gated community, super high end. That's sometimes a vision people have, all the way to the hippie commune, totally off grid, out in the woods kind of community. I would say most fall somewhere in the middle. Most communities can feel indeed even more just like an old-fashioned neighborhood. A lot of communities are in cities too. So it's hard to say. I think of the rural intentional communities, probably a good portion of them have some of their systems off grid. For example, in my community, we pretty much only have well water here. So we're off grid in that sense, but most of the homes, except with the exception of one, are grid tied because that's a lot more convenient for us with where we're situated. So yeah, it's a mix depending on the landscape and the intention of the community itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when I was going through your questionnaire, like kind of selecting like between rural or urban, it's weird because it's like sometimes when we talk about like a community making decisions, we have to kind of scale, and to be like, well, if we're part of, a state and there's decision makers, you know what I mean? Or how do we uh, have influence, So usually what that means is like in a smaller city, trying to befriend the mayor or council members, you know what I mean? Because it's all connected somewhat. But it seems like where you're located, is there a mayor of the city that your Vermont Eco Village is in?
We're not located near a city, so it's not a mayor. We do have though a select board and various committees that govern our small town, and we're pretty connected. We have pretty good relationships with all of that. A bunch of our neighbors serve on various committees for the town. Um, we're very fortunate here in New England to have strong, very hyper local governance. In fact, there's a tradition here in Vermont on the first Tuesday of every month of March that we have what we call Town Meeting Day, which is hosted in all the towns throughout Vermont. And it's actually like a day when people go to the town hall and talk about issues and vote for things on the floor, yay or nay. It's a long-standing tradition here, and I think really helps people feel like they have agency and can make decisions on the slightly bigger level than just the eco village itself.
Nice. And is there kind of nature in the 15 acres? Like if you wanted to go for a hike, or do you have to, is there like a state park nearby or something like
Oh,
that?
we're just surrounded by nature. We have, so many gardens and trees. We're really lucky that abutting our property is an extended network of hiking and biking trails. It's called the Vast Trail Network here in Vermont. It's kind of a snowmobile trail network in the winter. So in the summer, it can be used for all kinds of purposes. So yeah, I very frequently go on runs through the woods and past these different fields, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so you're growing some food. How does it work? Is there like a communal garden, or does everyone kind of have their own as well? And then when it comes to maybe fruit trees, like is there an orchard or anything?
Yeah, yeah, all of the above. Yeah, you described it well. Yeah, so we each have near our homes our own like personal gardens, which I don't have the best growing conditions right next to my home. So I have a few things. I mostly have kitchen herbs here, but all of the main vegetable production is in the big upper garden. And it's sort of a hodgepodge of different ways we structure, like I have one terrace that I've kind of taken on as like my terrace, and I do that's what I mostly focus on. But we all help with whatever needs doing. We do the garlic harvest as a community. We do all the squashes communally. And really, our goal with it is to grow more than enough for everyone so that there's never like a doubt, like, oh, can I harvest this or not? No, we have plenty. We have enough for everyone's needs to be met. And then, yeah, we have a big orchard beehives to greenhouses, and that's all. Yeah, all community. The
Is
chickens, of course.
there like a community kitchen kind of like where stuff can be processed compared to each person's individual kitchen or
We don't. A lot of communities do have a community kitchen or a common house. We would like to have something like that eventually. It's probably something we would need to fundraise for to build. But we've talked a lot about creating like an outdoor kitchen. Uh, so yeah, we have different ideas in the works of like a pizza oven. What we're working on this summer is a solar dehydrator. So yeah, little pieces like that to have more resources as a community.
and I think you touched on this, but it is at capacity, right? Like you can't have more people move into it right now, right? Like the only
Yeah, we're pretty much at capacity. Yep. Yeah, we're more excited to support other emerging communities in our area instead of expanding what we have here at the moment because the size feels just
how's
right
that,
for us.
yeah, how's that going? Because that would be interesting to think like if because we're still kind of structured, like I would love it if we were organized through watersheds or something other than the arbitrary boundaries that we call our counties, but it's kind of like, are there other intentional communities in your county?
Oh yeah,
You,
there
you,
are.
you do
Um,
me.
Yeah, there are other intentional communities right in our immediate area. Most of them are pretty small and nascent, although there's one just down the road. It's more of a farming collective. They've been going strong for a while. And then in the state of Vermont, we have a statewide network of intentional communities, and we meet twice a year at a different community, and we have an email list. And so we're really passionate about networking and supporting each other.
So how does that structure work? Because I think there's that foundation for intentional communities. Like, is that something,
Oh, you mean the foundation? Yeah,
yeah,
the
like if
the FIC is one of a number of organizations. That is, mostly of them are nonprofits that support intentional communities. They have like an online directory, a bunch of resources, but our network is not affiliated with FIC in that way. We're kind of like a loose network of people who are keen to connect with each other, and we have a small group. I'm one of the members who's like on the planning team, and we talk about where we might want to meet and how we want to facilitate the meeting.
yeah, because I guess you have a lot more experience than I do, but it's like if there could be like an annual conference, because for one, it wouldn't just be the United States, like we're talking about all across the world, like the idea of like people that are living in intentional community are interested in it. If there's like
Yeah.
an annual conference, whether it's like
Yes.
there's one in the US, I mean, it's kind of like permaculture. I mean, but it's a little.
There are annual conferences. I'm excited to share with you. Yes, there's, for example, the Twin Oaks Intentional Communities Conference happens every Labor Day weekend. It's been going strong for decades. I've gone to many of those. That's a great way for people to connect. So the Twin Oaks Communities Conference in Virginia. And then there are other regional ones that happen like on a semi-annual basis. The Northwest Intentional Communities Association has had a pretty big gathering for many years up in that part of the country. And then in Europe, they're super strong and consistent. They have the European Ecovillage gathering every year for decades, hosted at a different community each year. So right now, it's actually the event is starting just in a few days here in August at a community in Hungary. Next year, it's going to be hosted in Germany. So they try to rotate the location, but yeah, it's a great event for people who are in Europe.
All right, so on that, what's the largest community you've visited? Like, are we talking hundreds of people, or thousands, or like what's the large
Yeah,
intentional?
the The largest is a community I visited. It's the largest, arguably, in the world, called Oroville in India. That's a community with around 3,000 residents. And they are very much focused on creating a center for human unity. So it has a spiritual component to it, very much focused on uh, yeah, creating a home for the various cultures of the world to find peace and to live together in a new way.
Wow.
Yeah, Oroville's been around for more than 50 years. That's definitely the largest.
Yeah, because I can't think offhand, but I thought there's one in Italy. It starts with a D.
Sure. Dom
Yeah,
and is also
that.
pretty large.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dom less than 1,000 residents. And that's actually structured as a federation of communities. So there's many different communities within the Federation of Dom. And we're hosting tours. We're hosting a tour in September, end of September, beginning of October, to visit communities in northern Italy, and Damanhur will be a big part of that. And then in February, we're hosting the Ecovillage tour in Oroville, India, for those who want to visit India.
So what have you learned from the people interested in visiting? Are they usually people already living in intentional community, people that are committed to that, or people that are just curious? Like what kind of.
Yeah, it's mostly people who are curious, mostly people who are thinking about joining a community to live in or want to start one. Very rarely do we get people who already live in a community who come on our trips, but it happens. Mostly people are really looking for inspiration. They want to not just research online, but they want to go and see what's possible for themselves and get their feet on the ground and shake some hands and learn things in person.
Mhm. Awesome. And so let's talk a little about permaculture. So when did you discover permaculture? And
Yeah,
yeah, how do you see that being related, especially like permaculture design when it comes to like
yeah.
being the land or, because sometimes it's the ideal, and at least for me, like personally, I'm very passionate about like permaculture designed landscapes being more aesthetically pleasing than like conventional because there's so many HOAs that like restrict food growing and
Gosh.
other things like that because we only have so much time. I want to respect your time, but when we think about like all the lawns like in the United States that could be growing some food, and then we have a situation like COVID where maybe our supply chains disrupted and there could have been fruit trees like all over the place or stuff like that. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean just the background photo you have behind you, that says it all. Yeah, I am hugely passionate about permaculture. I've taken my permaculture design course, also my ecovillage design course, and I really see the principles of permaculture being incredibly beneficial to support the design of a community, whether it's intentional or just all neighborhoods everywhere. Um, my main source of inspiration, it's adjacent to permaculture. It probably predates permaculture. Is a book called A Pattern Language by Christopher Alexander, who was an architect who studied the villages of the world in a similar way that Bill Mollison and Sepp Holsters, the founder of permaculture, studied the food systems of the world. Christopher Alexander was really looking at how our village is designed. Where's the road? Where are the entrances? What fosters social connection? What deters social connection and vibrancy and beauty as well. So that's a really great resource for people who are interested in community design.
nice. So it kind of like you mentioned it earlier, you just were kind of interested in indigenous Native American stuff, like before knowing about permaculture, because that's the way I describe it. I became an advanced permaculture designer in 2012, and it just transformed everything. But eventually, I had to like go to a place like Hawaii because I was like, I just wanted to really immerse myself in nature and
Hmm,
especially like waterfalls and stuff. So I don't know if there's like waterfalls or rivers near you?
Oh, well, I constructed in my front yard a pond with a
Awesome.
waterfall. So I can hear the sound of it right now, actually. Yeah, I love waterfalls. I think water features are wonderful. Mhm.
Nice. Well, I wish we had more time. I'd ask for like a whole, cribs edition, like go
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you have any kind of closing thoughts? Obviously, people can visit your website. It's your name, cynthiatina.com. Uh, learn more if they're interested and curious about intentional community and uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
match
And
you
come
provide.
on.
You visiting so many, once you hear people's goals and interests, you can kind of find that alignment with certain communities that would be that matchmaking.
Yeah, yeah, I do the community matchmaking, helping people find a fit. A lot of my focus right now is on ecovillage tours, so really encourage people if they want to come on a trip with us, ecovillagetours.com. Yeah, what would I say to close? I hope that, my story can be inspiring to folks who are in that nine to five grind or unsure how to connect with something that feels more aligned, feels closer to nature, and their values. And that there's so many resources and so many cool places around the world that are doing it. So you don't at all need to feel alone, and you can take some steps to do the research and get out there and visit places and build a network and yeah, and come join us. There's lots of room in existing communities and there's lots of new communities that can be created for sure.
Yeah, I definitely look back to circling back with you at some point. I've just been doing the grind here, and I don't know if you ever heard of the St. Pete Eco Village in St. Pete, Florida. I was
Yeah, yeah.
and we learned a lot. Like I talk about the decision makers because when I moved there, I had just gotten back from being in Kauai for almost a year, and I did my Master Gardener program out there, and I was kind of part of an intentional community. So I was like, this is great. Like it's here in Florida, and we had 60 chickens. So I'm like, this is perfect. And I just paid rent because some people were doing like a work trade to be there because there was a lot of construction going on. Long
Mm-hmm.
short, the guy who made a bunch of money on some, tech companies, was trying to bankroll this whole project and buy up a whole street. And we were really pushing the envelope, but we just kept getting pushback from the city. So like they sent a letter that we had to get rid of the chickens. And it was a great service for the kids. I mean, every week there was schools coming by to check out the chickens, and so then we're at the city meetings like trying to ask permission to do things, because it was residential zoning. And even before it was an eco village, it was a farm. It had been like a halfway house, so it provided a service for people like transitioning back into health or some type of normancy. And so it's been a farm for like almost 15 years. But unfortunately, like, I mean, things are working out. Like they raised funds for an outdoor kitchen, and they're kind of doing some farm to table, like now that it's not the actual eco village, but it was just kind of like an uphill battle with the city, But that was right in downtown. So I mean, like downtown St. Pete. So it's a miracle that it hasn't been sold off and turned into townhouses, and people value that. So that was kind of an interesting. So I don't know if you ever um, heard of that, but different people from other intentional communities would come and visit, and it was great while it was great, but then it all kind of, went by the wayside.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, it's it's unfortunate that that's what can happen to some communities because they're trying to do something really radical and different. And I think, of all the many communities that do exist, there's so many more that didn't quite make it. But I think the important thing is that there's that continual effort. I mean, throughout the hundreds and hundreds of years, humans have been trying to carve out different ways of life and doing little experiments. And some of them are very successful and last a long time. And some of them are just an idea that lasts for a few years, and then it's maybe still inspiring you and many other people who got to connect with it while it still was the full vibrant thing it was.
Yeah, but good for you finding a good community, really, and tight knit, and
Yeah.
really putting your heart and soul into your home, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so
yeah,
much. Yeah. Thank you, Alex, for this time today. Thanks for everything you're doing with TruthLab. Thank you for having me on.
yeah, you're very welcome, and I look forward to other inspiring interviews, and hope you have a blessed rest of your day. And like I said, in due time, I'll circle back, because I'm definitely interested in, just from what I've learned in some of these eco villages, trying to start my own. And then a lot of times, though, when we're just about at an hour now, kind of like the psychology, like what you said, conflict resolution, and how important it is for people to kind of like process trauma before they try to live in community. You know what I mean? Because it's like you don't want people bringing their baggage into a community. You know what I mean? Because you want it to be cohesive. And like, obviously, people are not going to agree on everything, but it's kind of about being, respectful about that. And there's a lot that we can learn from indigenous elders and the way they decision make and resolve conflict and things like that. So it's like the wheel doesn't have to be, recreated. And so, anyways, I just really want to thank you for your time and for being an amazing example. And I did my best to look into you before, but like all of us, we have a lot going on. So I,
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I
I was
appreciate it.
consistent. I got you on. So
Yeah, you did. You were very persistent. Yeah, I appreciate that.
but enjoy the rest of your day, okay? And make sure
All right.
everybody, I guess the best place if people want to follow you, just get in touch with you through your website.
Sure.
And
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Good.
cynthiatina.com. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time, see ya. Have a great rest of your day,
All
Cynthia. Bye.
right. Bye. Take care.